Top 9 mistakes women make after a divorce. Are you about to or recently divorced? Are you feeling lost because you've been with someone for too long and don't know how to live your life without them? Are you overwhelmed by the amount of things you have to do in order to set your life on track? Here are the top 9 mistakes most women and men sometimes make right after their divorce that can be devastating. So keep watching. Mistake number 1. Dating your ex. I cannot tell you how many women I know and how many readers and viewers of my channel have confessed this to me, that right after their divorce or a breakup, they went back and dated the same guy for a while, and it was the biggest mistake that they could have made at that moment. What happens actually is, when you're breaking up with someone, especially with someone who you have a shared history with, it is highly likely that when you're separating, the thought of that separation and loneliness sets in, and you have a very strong feeling to run back into their arms or to feel them again, to talk to them again. You miss them basically, no matter how much you know that you broke up for a reason, and it's never a good idea to slide back into your past. All those rational thoughts will go to a side and your emotion will overtake, and you might go back to them, you might stalk them on social media, you might want to date them very badly. This is a huge mistake because this is only a temporary emotion, because when the reality sets in, it's the same shitty person who was doing those shitty things to you and who made your life so miserable that you wanted to pay any price to get out of that shitty relationship. I can't say that enough. So if you're thinking that dating them again will somehow set your life straight and ease your problems and take away the miseries, no. You are trying to avoid pain. This is what it is. This is why you're going back to the same person. But believe me, right now you're afraid and fearful, and you think the world is ending because there are maybe no good people out there who you can date or who you can live with or who will ever understand you. But trust me, the world has good people, good men who understand you, respect you, good women who will take you for who you are, and you don't have to be so desperate to go back to the same person who disappointed you so much that you had to break away from them. Don't ever make that mistake. And if they are the one who initiated the divorce or a breakup, then when someone doesn't want you when you are 100% with them, why would they want you after a breakup? So these are the things that will just complicate your life, complicate your the process of moving on in your life, and it'll set you right back onto that station, the 0 point in your life. So don't do that. Don't make that mistake. You will personally write to me and tell me that this was one of the biggest cravings that you had while getting or after getting your divorce, because I know this happens so much and so commonly. The next thing, staying in bed. It's very obvious while you are separating with someone, you are lonely, alone, you want to stay in bed, you're probably depressed, you don't want to go out and see people because you are afraid that people will ask you about your divorce, you don't want to see friends or family because you think that they will ask questions or judge you or make weird remarks about your social life or about your married life or whatever. But staying in bed is not the best solution for a long time. Yes, you have the right to stay in bed. You have full opportunity to do that. If you do have that, you should stay in bed for a while, rest, give yourself time. But if you think that staying in bed will somehow ease the pain, or when you get out the world will be different, no honey, it will not be. The world would be the same place that you have to face, and you have to get through this. There's no way that you can get around it. So stay in bed only for a good amount of time that is necessary, and after that buckle up and get ready to face the world, because you can't stay in bed forever. The third mistake women do is seeking escapism. So while you're feeling depressed and sad, one way to go around is, as I mentioned before, people stay in bed. The other one is they seek escapism, something to escape. Do something that will distract your mind from your reality, so you don't have to sit down and accept that now you are a divorced person, now you are a divorcee. So what people do, they start to gamble, they get involved in risky behavior, they start drinking too much, they start taking some kind of drugs, they start meeting random people, strangers, putting themselves at risk, putting people around them at risk, or getting addicted to, let's say, a TV show or a video game of some kind. And because those things give you a temporary sense of achievement, they give you a temporary dopamine hit in your brain. So you want it so badly, you want so bad to not feel the pain, that you do anything that provides you that sense of escapism. So your real life is still the same life, and you have to face the facts, and you have to face the reality. Seeking escapism is not going to help with that. Fourth thing, this I see in a lot of women, they try to deal with all of this alone. So getting a divorce and going through all of these emotions is a Herculean task. And if you think that you can go through all of this on your own without asking for help because you are too afraid of judgment, then this will make your life and process a lot difficult. Trust me, no matter how bad you think the world is, there are people out there who can help you, and you don't really have to deal with all of this alone. Dealing with all of these emotions, a bitter person, they will make you feel the world differently, they will devastate your self-confidence. So a good way is to rely on some close friends who you know they are not judgmental, people who understand you. If you have someone in the family who is supportive of you, then you can talk to them. And best of all, when you don't have to rely on anyone, if you can access therapy, please see a therapist. Getting a divorce is very close to, and sometimes actually, experiencing a trauma. And when you are experiencing trauma, you need a therapist's help that can take you through it. So there are different aspects around this therapy topic, and I have videos on my channel around that, so you can check them out if you are interested in taking a therapist's help. And I seriously recommend that you do take their help, because it will make your life a lot easier. Fifth one is making choices so the kids like you. Now, this usually applies obviously to parents, or specifically women who have gotten the custody of their children. So while going through a divorce, your children, if they are in that age that they understand whatever is going on, so they might be mad at you or upset at you, or they would be just trying to process the whole thing just as you are. So in order to make the kids like you and not the other person, not your ex, what people do is they go out of their way to get the approval of their kids. So for example, they let them stay past the bedtime curfew time. They will let them eat cakes and chocolates and sweets, whatever, just so the kids say, oh yeah, this is a better parent because they spoil me more, or whatever the things may be, whatever the so-called sacrifices or whatever tricks and traits you are using to think that this is the only way you can get your kids to like you. Please don't make those mistakes, because at one point these kids will grow up and they will understand whatever you are doing and why you're doing it. And more importantly, other than these tricks that you're using, if you have this thing in your mind that you only have to make decisions just to please your kids, but if your own heart and soul is not into a decision, then that will make you unhappy. Then what was the even point of taking a divorce if you are still doing the same things that are making you unhappy and just keeping you in that bad mode? Of course, there are sacrifices that you have to make as a parent for your children, but make sure that you keep yourself in your mind and take decisions based on that too. Mistake number 6 is seeking revenge, which is an extension in some ways of the last part, that if you have that thing in your mind that I have to teach this person a lesson, I have to make sure that the next person I date is sooner than they can find somebody else, and the guy has to be a much better version of him, and he has to be like this and like that, and I'll show it to him, I'll teach him a lesson. These are the kind of revengeful things that I often hear women say, and these are extremely harmful and poisonous things to do, because when you're seeking revenge, most of the time the other person is not hurting, you are the one who's hurting. And let's say you succeed in doing something like this, how long is it gonna take you? First of all, how long of your life are you going to waste thinking about these insignificant things? Because trust me, it doesn't make any difference. What's gone is gone, what's happened is happened. First thing is this. And second thing is, let's say you do get another person who's better than them, or looks, or has more money, or is more successful, whatever. What does that prove? Because whoever you date next, if you have your ex in mind while taking other decisions in your life, that is the biggest indicator that you have not moved on. You're still stuck in the past. And for as long as you're stuck in the past, your life is never going to change. Your life will never have any improvement. The quality of your life will be pathetic. So the divorce, that means, is not going to be a deciding factor in your life, and that means the divorce didn't do you much good, did it? So you could have done the exact same things while you were in that relationship anyway. So seeking revenge and this kind of mentality is something that most people get that in their mind, but seeking a therapist, and if you can educate yourself and process these feelings by yourself on your own, then that's good. But please try to do that, because these things need to go out of your mind, and these are very unhealthy for you. Point number 7 is dwelling in the past. Now, let's say everything that you do, you keep thinking about your past, you keep thinking about your ex. Now, I know there is a factor about that you will miss your ex. Missing the person is fine, because that is how memory works, that is how normally humans behave and function. So it is very obvious and natural that after your divorce, you are going to miss your ex for a while. But by dwelling in the past, I mean that you keep thinking about specific events and specific moments that you shared with that person. So for example, you are speaking with a stranger and they are asking about your life, and you start telling them about yourself, and the most common things that you can only think about, oh yeah, the first time I met my ex, it was like this and like that. So you have to make a deliberate attempt at not trying to think of those specific moments or things. And this can also be seen as when, let's say, your partner was abusive, or your partner was a really bad person, really horrible person, and you divorce them. And even after your divorce, you keep thinking about the bad moments, and you keep thinking about how they ruined your life and screwed you over and this and that, and every person you meet, you're only talking about them. These are the things that happen with most people anyway, because this is very natural. When you're bitter, when you're angry at something, that you think you have faced injustice that you did not deserve, so these are things that happen. So it is natural, and for a while these things will happen. But if you keep dwelling in the past, if you don't try to move on, if you don't put your mind deliberately on new things, new people, new experiences, then this thing is not going to be healthy, and you will have a very difficult time moving forward. Mistake number 8 that I see most people make is they get overwhelmed with multitasking. So this is more about the logistical mistake that you make. When you are getting divorced, you're obviously moving into a different house, or they're moving into a different house. Maybe you owned savings or some kinds of bank accounts that are shared, so you would have to separate your name and from your paperwork, from your passports, from your a ton of paperwork and applications and this and that. You would have to change your passwords that you might have shared with them. So there are small things, but if you put them all together, there are lots of things, from smaller things to changing your Netflix password to the biggest of the biggest things, like making your changes on your passport and your citizenship papers or stuff like that. So when you get overwhelmed is when you try to do all of it at once. So make a plan, put all the things down, and if you can get help with your friend or someone who you trust, or if you can hire someone to take care of the things for you, please do that, because then if you are a mother, there are even more responsibilities, things to do around and manage your life and your child's life. So please take help wherever possible. And if you cannot absolutely take help with anyone, please make a proper list, go by the list, and try to do only one thing at a time. Try to allot yourself enough time to do the things so that you don't try to do all of those at once. Make a plan so you can follow up on the things that are pending, and slowly as the days go by, I'm 100% positive that you will be able to accomplish all the tasks that you have in your mind. It's just about taking time and trying to go slow instead of trying to do everything at once, right? 9th and the last mistake that I see people make is dating without healing. Now, let's say that you are trying to move on and you try to date the first stranger that you meet. What happens is, initially in the beginning, your mind is only looking for a rebound. Now, people in the West are much aware of this rebound concept, and now even in the Asian societies, most people understand what rebound might be. But for someone who doesn't understand, rebound is something that you don't want to stick with forever, but because right now you are feeling vulnerable and you're feeling like you have nobody around you, that no one will ever have you, you are feeling unloved and you want attention and you want to feel desired, and you want to feel good about yourself. So you hook up with the first person that you meet, and you meet them and you hook up with them and you try to think, oh, this is the real thing, and you immediately jump into a relationship, because either you have that thing in your mind, I have to prove to my ex that I am in a successful relationship right after the divorce, so I have to prove something to him or her or to the rest of the society that, oh yeah, I don't have to last on the market, I'm so hot that people will just keep running behind me with their hearts. this is the biggest misconception ever, because thinking that you are in the singles market doesn't mean that you are unwanted or that you are a bad person. Being single is not about about being unwanted. Being single can mean a ton of things, and not one of them is that you are unwanted. So if you have that thing in mind, or if you think that you have to prove these things to other people and you start dating the first person that you meet, then I can almost promise you 100% that this will be a mistake, because right now you're not thinking straight. Right now you're emotional, you're needy, you're desperate, you're feeling unloved, and you're making decisions randomly without thinking them through. Any relationship that you enter after a divorce is a relationship that you should give enough time after your divorce, because right after your divorce you need a good amount of time for self-healing and self-improvement. You need to self-reflect. You need to think about all the things that happened in that relationship. Why did that happen? Whose mistake was it? Think about your psychological aspects, the behaviors that you did when you were in a relationship that the other person did. I'm 100% sure you learned what kind of a person you are, what kind of a person you would like to sit next to. In the beginning, when you're young, sometimes you might also be desperate because, oh, my friends are getting married, so I also want to get married. So when you're thinking like that, you are entering into a relationship just from the looks of it. Oh, we both look good in a selfie together on Instagram, so I want to show off to my friends. Couple goals or selfie goals or whatever new hashtag you're making, you're posting that on your social media. You are entering into the relationship for all the wrong reasons. Now let's say you did all of those things, because most marriages that end, I have seen end because of those reasons, because the other person did not think things through completely. You did not give the relationship enough time. You did not test the other person to see if the other person is worth that commitment. So most people in their 20s, when they are around 20s or late 20s, in that young age, they think of marriage as this fairy tale romance thing that's going to happen to them and everything is going to be great. But in reality, when the whole marriage process begins, then they understand that marriage is, after all, not a fairy tale. So now when you want to date again, obviously you can meet people, yes, date again, but if you have not healed properly, if you have not dealt with the problems, then you will repeat the same mistakes again, and more than likely you will attract the same kind of bastard that was your ex. You'll attract the same kind of person, and you'll end up with the similar kind of person. So it's not just about trading your partner, it's about trading your problems. You also have to think of those problems, and you have to change that pattern of problems. Instead of thinking that just because you have a different partner now, your life is going to be different. Honey, it's not. It's going to be the same shitty life that you had with the last ex person, because you have not dealt with the problem. So sit down, think about all of those things. Take good amount of time, at least 1 year, 2 years plus time, to think about those things. In the meantime, yes, you can date people, you can see people, but don't make a long-term commitment, because you are not mentally ready for it. More than likely, you need time to heal, to grow, and only then you are ready to make a long-term commitment to someone who you have tested, tried, had a long courtship period with, and only then commit to that relationship. With that, I hope I have tried to be as brief as possible, but it still went on for a while. So I hope this information helps you, and you do not make the same mistakes that most people make right after their divorce.